Welcome to episode number 64 of the Speaking Podcast. Apologies for not having an episode in the last 6 weeks, but I started a course because I launched a new podcast, the Awakening Podcast, where I met the next guest, Mr. James Finney. Welcome.
Hello. Yes, I do apologize for keeping you for 6 weeks. It wasn't actually just me, but yes, no, it was a worthwhile cause. So yes, hello. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And to be honest with you, it's your humor that from the minute I met you, you made me laugh so many times. But I'd like you to just introduce yourself to the audience first.
All right, then. Well, I'm a man currently at the age of 45. Life began for me, obviously, just at birth. But in regards to an exciting journey and what I saw, that probably began at 2. I rapidly excelled in my abilities and what I could do at the age of 11, peaked, found women, other things, crashed, and then I spent 30 odd years in a huge battle with my conscience and what I saw in the real world. And now I'm sort of knocking that off now and actually getting involved with people on a real one-to-one basis and absolutely loving it. And that's pretty much me right now.
Excellent. Very good. So, since it's the Speaking Podcast, what was your journey growing up as a child, in like when you have to stand up in the class or anything like that?
I loved it. I was an absolute show-off, in all honesty. I've only got that recollection recently. When I was the Christmas pantos, the fact that it was only once a year was a bit depressing. There was not very much opportunity at a junior school to do other shows, but I loved the showing off and doing that sort of thing. I liked telling jokes as a kid. I liked doing, I just liked being the center of attention or picking people up or making them laugh. And then at some point, after a house move to a completely different area, it stopped. I became introverted, very quiet, didn't express any communication going outwards. So I think the first 11 years of my physical life were the most expressive. But in the recent months, I've sort of hit the ground again. Not in a bad way, like face first into the tarmac, but actually my feet are catching up and moving with the speed of everything else. So that's good. And I've discovered a love for talking again.
Beautiful. And I know how that feels, because I know that I was actually in a relationship, and the Irish humor is kind of unique, and some people don't get it. And when somebody stops, you're kind of, I don't know, we kind of use sarcasm a lot, but when somebody just doesn't get your sense of humor, it's like it takes a part of your soul. And I found that there was a few years that I wasn't myself.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the wackaday world, if you get yourself into the good corporate structure, you can say goodbye to most humor. It's weird. I've been investigating humor quite thoroughly of late. And it's weird, you find in the social stratas, like the factory environment, the warehouse environment, there's a lot more humor in that than there is in the corporate. You've got to be serious, you've got to be this. And there's some element of the soul gets crushed. Well, for me anyway, and I suppose anyone that's involved in humor, it is because you end up living a lie and it's all fake. And I'd much rather work in a warehouse than do a desk joppy job. I can't speak. A desk joppy. I can't say it. Right, but I can't speak anymore. That's it. I've peaked. I'm done.
Desk joppy job.
Operating a desk. I'll just make it up. It's a new coined word. The desk joppy job. Yes.
Trademark.
Yeah. So there's a weird line that you walk in life through your career choices where you do have to sacrifice humor. Well, actually, I say have to. You don't. It's the assumption that you have to. In all honesty, don't. Be true to yourself, really. I'm not wishing to be deep philosophy here. It's just the way I see it now. If you want to have fun, you've got to be yourself, really.
No, totally agree with you. And I remember, as you're saying that, going back that I used to work on construction sites, and I used to spend more time with the plumbers and the cleaners because we would always have a great laugh instead of the upper management. You know, they don't care. They just enjoy, have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of that work is monotonous, and without the randomity of humor, you become brain dead. Gotta be.
No, exactly. And with regarding speaking, what I have found, because I use humor a lot, I've done speeches and most of the time I put the humor into it. I think you connect with an audience a lot better with humor.
Yes, you can get the guard down a lot quicker. I could do a spreadsheet or a PowerPoint presentation. I say could. I don't want to and never would. But if I were, the only way that I would do that to engage people is with stupid pictures. When I see other people in the corporate world where I've been and they've done the presentations and they just put you into a coma, and that's not a learning or a good environment to learn. I once actually did, when I was at college, they had us do ladder training. Now I thought a ladder training is pretty basic. You put it in a position where it's not going to slide, so it doesn't fall effect to gravity, and you climb it. But no, we had to endure a 4-hour presentation on the subject of ladder training and safety. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done to stay awake. You know, I've done like 24 hours, 36 hours work, but staying awake during that, and I felt terrible for the guy presenting it. But then again, should I? Because he should have made it a lot more interesting, or get it done in half an hour. But 4 hours of ladder training, that was the hardest speech I've ever sat through.
Did he climb the ladder to get that position?
And you know what? I don't even think we actually climbed any ladders that day. A practical thing involved no ladders. So that was just
I can't even fathom how you could create 4 hours of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't want it. So it's a cruel thing to do to humans, isn't it? To do that sort of thing.
Exactly. And like have you done like open mic? You've done some comedy on stage, have you?
I've done comedy performances. I've been part of a comedy act, done various shows. I was also on holiday in New York. I went over there on the fly with nothing, just an empty bag, and met people in a hostel. And we started traveling around New York. And there was a comedy venue there that we found that I was apparently good at heckling. And they asked me to do the gigs there. But because of visas and such like, I didn't really want to get into it. But yeah, I was just naturally good at heckling. I didn't want to be good at heckling. I just thought that when there were people there that were ill performing, because some of the American humor, if you're not really good at it, it's a hard gig because all they talk about is where people are from. And that's it. And I found that a bit boring. So by heckling them and making stuff up, it made the show a lot more interesting. So I could have been a paid audience member. That probably would have been better. But yeah, that's what I like doing. And in the podcasting, I suppose I do that, and you can do the little video vlogs. But yeah, public speaking is a rush, and I have no issue at any situation where I've been put in whereby, can you speak on our behalf? Can you do this? Yeah, sure, not a problem. I don't know why. Am I still being a show off, or is it the fact that I just like engaging with people?
And like, if you are going up doing something like that, do you just kind of speak from the heart, or you prepare your speeches, or how do you do it? Your humor
has to be from the heart. I did performing arts, but sadly for me, I discovered that I can't learn scripts. It just won't go in. Now, I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing. I couldn't do a single script. Even if I had 20 words, I would panic and struggle. And, oh, here's my kid. And I would struggle with that. But give me a live show going, right, you're going to be this bloke, you're doing that, do whatever. I am fine with that. I'm comfortable with that. So I could spend all my life fighting that and trying to learn lines to become something I'm not, or just work on the fact that I just riff on things. And I feel that's a better thing to do for me. It might not be for others, but it becomes a distraction. I've also tried to do things where I've done a broadcast where I've had notes, but the very fact that I lose engagement with the audience and start looking at notes just for a moment, to me, I don't like that. If I was a viewer seeing that, I'm disengaged straight away. So personally, I don't even want the notes. I've never tried an auto cue, but I think I just looked like I was going a bit mad. I wouldn't do the auto cue. If people wanted me to speak, I'll speak. And that's it. If you want me to write you a speech, I could write you a speech, but I wouldn't perform it.
Okay, very good. And I see with the Zoom, like there's not very few people actually can bring humor into a Zoom call. Like, because I've seen you doing a few, even your podcast launch, and I'm not sure if you want to tell the audience what it actually entailed, what you were doing.
Well, yeah, that entailed a bit of randomity. The brief was that we were given that I had to introduce a team of podcasters, including my own, but on a live basis, and share it to the world on a live basis. The questions were sort of posed in our group as to who would like to be a team captain. Now, me presenting, I love doing that, and I'm happy to do that all day long. So I was like, yeah, I am up for this. Technologically wise, I'm not a software fan or a geek. I'm analog. I like dials. I like to pull open a box, push a button, and it's on, as opposed to going through software sequences and things like that. That I have an insecurity. I used to work in a recording studio, and I was in a recording studio at the time when it was all dials, faders, real stuff, and then it became computers, and the computers were always crashing, and it just ruined everything. So I've always had that slight averse thing on software. But in regards to this broadcast, I had to learn a program to introduce and to change the images and all that sort of stuff. Great. But I didn't script anything. In the morning, I thought, should I script this? But I just wasn't feeling it that day. I had a whole load of stuff going on. I thought, I'll just get my suit on, and 15 minutes before, I'll let everyone into the room and we'll just go. I just gave them the brief that you introduce you introduce you, and then come back to me, and that's it. And I had nothing else planned. And that was that. And then we just ran with it as soon as we went live. Just as we went live, one of the members who I was introducing had no sound. They couldn't hear me. They could hear other members, but not me. So I was meant to give a cue and all that sort of stuff, which I did do, but I didn't know. When you're using a software, when I change the screen, of course, they can only see themselves, not me going like that. So it was all a bit blind leading the blind. But I enjoyed presenting it, and yeah, it was great fun. I just made random stuff off the top of my head because I don't even plan, will anyone enjoy this? Will they be engaged by it? I just do what I do. And if I find an audience that likes that, then good. Let's roll with that and go that direction. So that's what I like doing. But yeah, I love doing the live stuff. Anything could happen, and I like that edginess.
Yeah, no, and I think more people come in as well because they know that you're kind of vulnerable and something can, be strange with it. So that's why I remember the girl, Ganya, is it? What's her name?
Brainya.
Yeah. That basically she couldn't hear you, and she still went along with it. But so that just shows you can improvise as well, and because nobody knew that till she actually wrote about it a few days later.
Yeah, and no one knew how I was going to end it neither. Yeah. I didn't tell them. I just said, there's going to be music at the end. If you want to dance, go for it. And that was it. They had no other clue as to what I was going to do.
Maybe you can tell people what you do so they can then go in and have a look and, start following.
Just have a look.
Exactly. Trust me, I think it was one of the funniest things I have ever seen when you wouldn't expect something to happen. So it's worth actually, having a look at that.
It's a primary ingredient I have on the subject of humor. There's two core things. I stick with it because I've never found it to be unflappable. And that is, you have to have an element of surprise, or what you're presenting as a reality cannot be accepted easily. Though if you do that, you will get a laughter or a humorous response. So always try and keep an element of surprise, or a reality that just genuinely can't be accepted. But the odd thing is, within the world, when you're using sarcasm, you're pushing the boundaries of acceptable reality. And that's why I love sarcasm, because you can then gauge, has that person got the point of view where they can see different realities, or are they just blinkered one reality and they won't get sarcasm? You hear this weird phrase, sarcasm's the lowest form of wit. Only for the stupid. And that's it, because if you're smart enough, or you're mentally flexible enough, you can see the sarcasm, or you would go, is he being sarcastic? At least that would then show that you're smart and awake. So I suppose that's one way I can vet people as to whether they're worthwhile hanging around with, really.
And like what I tell people is, because Irish people tend to be very sarcastic. I say I only do sarcasm to people I like. So if I'm being sarcastic, you don't do it to people you don't like. I don't know, is it the same with yourself? But you tend to do it with the people that you're close with, or that you throw the sarcasm a lot more.
I do. If I don't like them, I do obvious sarcasm because I know they still can't see it. You could say like, oh, that's really good. And I'll do that face or something like that. And they still don't see the fact that I'm being sarcastic. Yeah, probably I ramp it up a bit more, to be honest. Yeah. I have that when I'm in a shop and people would like, a common thing, it's one of my bugbears when you're shopping, is they don't tell you what the bill is, or they don't even look at you. So I will just stand there and wait. And then they look at me with questioning eyes as to why aren't I paying? And I'm like, how much? Are you going to tell me how much? Are we going to guess this? So yeah, sarcasm is great also with curiosity, and I'm naturally curious in the way I am. So sarcasm is a great sort of tool to sort of ask a question without appearing stupid, but maybe I am being stupid. That's the joy of sarcasm. Or is it?
Very good. And are you have you ever actually done Toastmasters? Have you? Are you familiar with it?
No, but it's I don't know. Would I be allowed? Would I be welcome in such a thing? What puts me off that idea is the audience, that people are. Yeah, it's a weird phenomenon. I could probably have a great deal of fun, but whether I'd be welcome or wanted back after such an event, I don't know. But I would certainly love to be in there in that den of lions. Yes.
No, because they do the humorous speech and everything. But I would recommend going to different clubs because some people will get it and others won't, and you'll just blend
Yeah.
into the right one. And
Yeah.
the reason that I'm bringing that up is because, like, I have come across a lot of people, and they go, "I'm just not funny." Do you believe a person can actually learn to bring humor into a speech?
Ooh, do I believe it? My snap answer on that is no. But that it's not. If you were saying on a chronic basis, i.e., for all their life, then yes, they can. People change. And I'm not going to set that a person is always going to be like blah. There are conditions and situations in their life and environment that will change them and what have you. On an acute basis, on let's right, here's this guy, he's boring as hell today. You've got to make him funny. I could make him appear funny, but will he be emitting humor? Could I awaken them to that? Probably not in a day, probably not in a week or a month, but the possibility is there. Maybe they were humorous. There's a lot of people out there that did used to be really funny that are no longer are. There are other people who just don't give a damn anymore. And when they hit their 50s and 60s, they become this wild, humorous person. So there's always the opportunity to change, but can you fake funny? No. However, if you fake it terribly, I suppose you're pushing the boundaries of it then being funny.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, very good. And with your podcast, you may tell people about your podcast that you started.
Right. Yeah, it's Father Finney's The Best a Man Can Get. So it's a mission to kick the butt of the middle-aged male, UK male, who has caved in, almost lost all hope, but not at the point where they're just down and out of it and given up. It's when they're on the fall down. They could be bust, no income. They've a lifetime of decisions that have just gone wrong, or they've gone in the wrong direction. They still have that inclination to turn it around, or that it's possible. And they're the kind of audience I want to work with, but through humor, to keep it light. There's far too much serious stuff out there that really gets me down, and I'm like, I don't want to be a part of that. Just the subjects of, say, politics or all these things that are meant to be important, but most of our social structure is an absolute joke in the first place. So I find humor in the fact that is. I can't take that seriously because it's absurd. Many a person unfortunately does, but I would try and keep out of the negative stuff like the politics and what have you. It comes up, but only in a humorous way. I don't want to spend my life debating that. I want to find things little nuggets that fall out of guests that can help turn and shift the point of view, which if you listen to, say, 10 or 12 of my podcasts, you'll probably find a slight change in point of view, or there's tools there to use and go about a productive or beneficial life, as it were. I'm not going to hit everyone in one episode with, yeah, I'm the guru, I'm going to turn you around, I'm going to make you this. That I make no claim to that, and I never will. My guests do that, as in over a long course of time, just by extracting things out of them. But I only want to do it on a genuine basis. I don't like guests that turn up with a fake agenda, and I like to sort of, maybe I'm pushing the boundaries of grilling in a humorous way just to see if they do know what they know and that they do genuinely believe it and that they can make it happen. Because I don't like frauds, I don't like fakes. So, and humor is a good way of exposing a fake or not, really. So that's it, really. That's quite a long description. Maybe I need to shorten the business card on that one.
And your logo, I mean, you've obviously invested thousands of pounds creating that logo for the podcast. It's very
Ladies and gentlemen, that's sarcasm. No, definitely not. I just draw it there and then on a piece of paper with a marker pen. I could spend more for tax deduction reasons, but at the moment my tax deduction is £1.99 for a biro and a pad of paper. That's it. I'm not into I am anti-marketing. I know that
But it
probably
actually
sounds weird.
works. I actually love your logo. It's like match. And you're actually creating for each podcast, because I've seen that in a few as well. You have a different, because I just use the same logo. I don't change it around, but you can put it. I know you can put a different logo for the episode. So you do a drawing for each episode as well, do you?
I am now. Yes. I've actually been asked by other people to do theirs for episodes, and I'm like, oh, okay. The fact that people are interested in the fact that I want to draw an awful matchstick man, or a fat stick man as I call him, is very bizarre. But that's me. I've got a whole catalogue of stuff. I used to like drawing. A little secret between you and I, when I was at work and bored and meant to be producing, I would actually get Microsoft Word open, get the mouse out and try and draw pictures freehand. And they were awful, but people loved them. So yeah, maybe it's a skill of mine that by being rubbish, if you excel at being rubbish, I think it's a viable product.
Did you know that you were actually, your talent from the past would actually come to benefit your future?
It's a weird thing, because my talent in the past, when I was 9 or 10, I had the ability to draw everything on site. I could draw everything in fine detail, be it railway stations, trees, nature. I could draw all of it. Even I remember drawing like explosions and battles and stuff. And then it just went. I had no ability. I couldn't draw anything. So I'm at that regressive point now where I can just draw a very basic thing. And it's a challenge in a way, because I'm having to draw a picture with one color, with minimal time or what have you, but I want it to get its message across. So yeah, maybe it is branding, but it's a very perverse course of branding that you're not going to learn at any university, that's for sure.
It's interesting you say that about the art, because I was very good at art in school, and I think the first year, which would have been at 13, I was the best in the class, but then they dropped it and I didn't do anything since then. I was always saying, I wish, and all now is just like, it's gone. And I done a picture. I bought all the painting stuff. My son is 6, and I said, I want to start doing painting. I said, let's try this. And
yeah,
there was nothing there. And I just done like little birds, and my son was like, that's terrible.
Yeah, my daughter is actually better than I am. She's far better at drawing. But there's a weird thing. I kept all the paintings. There's like a tradition now, when it's my birthday or Father's Day, she'll do a canvas and do a drawing. And for a significant part of my life, judging by the pictures she's drawn me, I'm looking at them now, she believes I'm Orthodox Jew, because I've got the beard there, I've got these things, I've got the hats. She honestly believes, and even herself, she's drawn as Orthodox. I don't know why she's previous life Jew, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's fascinating how she's drawn the pictures. But I've kept those pictures because I would like to use those. In some ways, I don't want her to develop her art, because I think, freeze it now. That is it. You've peaked. Keep it. But when she goes into school, I'm sure some art teacher will crush that and destroy it and tell her how to do things, and thus never actually have a saleable work of art, much like most art teachers. Oh, I'm a bitch. But yes, that's probably true.
Like, I think by doing things like art or music, you're, kind of stimulating your creativity. And that's what I'm trying to do, because you're getting the mind going, you're, different parts of the brain that you're working on.
Absolutely. And there's lots of sciences about brain not, but on a spiritual level, art is our fundamental way of communicating. Do you know what's weird? What comes to my mind right now is corporate buildings from like the 60s and 70s. Where I live in Shrewsbury, which is a beautiful town, fantastic architecture. And then for whatever reason, the council went a little bit mad on the old drugs in the 60s and 70s, and they allowed corporations to build their own buildings under the most hideous, disgusting structures out there. We've got a very big British Telecom exchange building here where there's a call center. It is the most disgusting building, and they built it right next to castle walls. And I don't know why it was allowed, but it just shows that something in society started killing art, and yeah, corporate design was one of those things, I feel. But that's just my own little thing. Won't get me much work on the corporate dinner speaking circuit, perhaps, but but yes, that's what I've noticed. Yes.
So moving forward on your comedy style and everything, what's your plans?
Plans? to live another day. Well, what are my plans? I've got to focus on the podcast. I currently sell stuff on eBay, and it's the most mind-numbing, boring thing. It's actually not the most boring. I've done even more boring things. I don't want to do it. I'm good at it. I've got a system, it works, but I don't want to do it anymore. I just want to talk to people. I know that seems a little bit hippie-esque, but I'm finding that that's where I'm getting joy in life and what makes me happy, either communicating or getting the best out of people. So that's what I want to do. I'm going to be focusing on building up my podcast. Obviously, whatever's connected to it, you can't solely rely on a podcast to live off, but I would like to get to a point where I can just be doing that and all the things connected to that broadcast and that mission. That's what I want to do. I have no interest to do anything else now. I've spent 40 odd years in confusion over what I could or should be. And now I am certain in what I want to do, which is a bizarre time to be doing it because every man and his dog seems to be doing a podcast. But I do realize that most people will not persist or stay at it. And I've seen quite a few podcasts and I'm thinking, well, I think I've got a good chance against those people because they're nuts or they just don't communicate. So primarily, I think I have a good chance on that front, providing I keep at it and I make the right choices and get the right support and work with the right people. And that's what I'll do.
Definitely consistency is the main thing, and if you can just keep at it, because a lot of people, they just throw in the towel. And you see a lot of people being coaches and everything. Why not try and be a comedy coach, and that could be a side thing to your thing, because then it's one-on-one with your comedy, because you have an ability to make people laugh and just to guide people, even just to hold the hand and get them onto an open mic or something like that, to have somebody that would actually give them the confidence to do that.
It's a pursuit I could do. My only concern, I have this mental baggage of the consideration that one has to be proven in your field before you start disseminating or assisting others in that subject. It's a bit like me, as far as I could see, it would be a bit fraudulent for me to go out and tell people how to run a business successfully. Yet I'm a 2 times bankrupt and I've defaulted on about 30 loans and credit cards in my life. So I don't think I've got a good track record to go, hey, you should listen to me, I'm going to tell you about. That's like, no, that's fake. But in regards to subjects of humor and comedy, the only way I can really apply it as a trade is how it's kept me alive and kept me off psychiatric drugging. It's kept me out of psychiatric institutions. Can I say that word? Psychiatric institutions? Yes, I can. It's kept me alive and going, whereas nearly every day of my life up until about 2 months ago, I had made the desire or commitment to be dead. And that is my existence. I didn't want to be alive. I was hoping for an accident. I was hoping for some, because I didn't have the balls to just blow my brains out. And also I didn't want to be a failure anyway. The weird thing, I did advise a friend, look, if you find my house completely tidy and I've got everything in order, that's the day to be worried, because that's when I'm going, because everything's done. I'm sorted. No, I could probably aid people in regards to how to use comedy to survive or turn it around, not as opposed to doing comedy gigs, etc. Because I think I'd feel I was a fake or a fraud by doing that. But I want to use it in some way to turn people around, to find positives in life, as opposed to being stuck on the negatives or getting involved in the whole psychiatric drug industry and all that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. That would be what I could do, maybe.
Okay. And from what you've just mentioned there about bankruptcy and losing, I lost everything, and I think when it happens, you actually look at life differently. That you kind of realize, one, it's all orchestrated. So then you kind of, when you realize it's all orchestrated, then you can kind of go, okay, was it really my fault when the whole system was kind of put into this kind of thing to make everybody kind of a slave? And the other thing is that you should start appreciating the small things in life. And I think humor is one of them. It's just that putting a smile on somebody's face, if you light up a room, because you don't know what they're going through. Everybody, there's a high percentage of people going through that. It's just that majority of people, they close their lips, they don't say nothing about it. But because of the shame factor, they actually intentionally do that to make people feel ashamed and not to say it. Because if everybody came out and said it, you will find that there is a lot more people going through the exact same thing, but they've been kind of blackmailed into, no, you keep quiet. And I think that humor can put a smile on someone's face and it can change their psyche, and that in itself is a gift to actually bring to people.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it is. And yeah, I would definitely like to do that as a means going forward. Absolutely.
So listen, I love talking to you. How can people, I want people to definitely, you can, what you can do is send me the link anyway. So I'll put the link for the podcast launch, because that in itself, it was only like 15 minutes or something like that. But the humor is like 10 out of 10. But also the pod. So what's the best place for people to actually get in contact with you?
At the moment, it's Father Finney's Congregation on Facebook. There is a fatherfinney.com that will be live in the next few days. I keep putting this off, but I've got to pay the invoice at some point, and then you'll turn it on. And I'm on. If you just Google Father Finney podcast, it will bring up Apple, Spotify, Google Play. Google Play are slightly delayed for whatever reason. When I publish my podcasts, the first place to find them is actually Anchor FM. And then about 4 or 5 days later, they show up on Google. But yeah, it's on all the usual suspects and others, even companies I've never heard of, but it is on those. And there will be a YouTube thing, I expect next week. I've been catching up on business that I've neglected, like paying the rent. So I've been doing that this week. But yeah, there's going to be a few more podcasts going out. And also over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be practicing on not saying For whatever reason, I've noticed in the last few weeks, I've started saying And I used to laugh when I'd see footballers be interviewed on Match of the Day and the predominance of the subject was 90%. I was like, why are they even bothering? Don't just make words up. So I will be focusing on that as well. So I don't give the clue that I'm thinking as I go along.
Yeah, like the Toastmasters is very good for that, because they actually have a person at each meeting that's tracking that. And I have seen people going from a speech with 50 of them to 0. So it's worth investigating.
Wow, what a job. So they just strike off every
Exactly, yeah. People go,
There's anyone out there that needs someone to count? I can do that.
I'm just curious, actually, how many priests and nuns have started following you, thinking that it was a religious podcast?
I have no idea.
Because it's Father Finley is what you've called it, yeah?
Yeah, Father Finney. But it's weirdly enough, I was speaking to someone about marketing and sort of interviewing, and I would like her to work for me, but at the moment I can't afford her. But she was saying, have you done any legal disclaimer? Because, if people thought, I'm like, no. She's like, well, you need to maybe just state it clearly that you're not. I'm like, no, that's no, it's not happening. I'm not going to do that. If someone sees the name and thinks they are that, then that's their choice. At no point have I claimed to be a member of the church. I am a father. Maybe in my past, I have actually been a priest, but I don't discuss it. I have actually had involvement with a church, but that's nobody's business unless they want to ask and go into it. I've done again. Sorry, that's 2 strikes. What else? Yeah, no, I'm not going to disclaim on it. And I think, the Irish Source was actually the inspiration. It was Father Ted. I thought that series was incredible.
Yeah, that's the brilliant. Yeah.
And do you know what's funny about that series? As much as I loved it, if you buy the script, it's even funnier because there's stuff in there that was never used in the program, and the way they describe it. So the actor does the things. The script is just so funny.
Oh,
I love that sort of notion.
Get that, yeah, that you're able to just get the script. Oh, very good. Yeah, no, that was one of the best, because they wouldn't make it in the Irish television program. It was made in Channel 4, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
because at the time Ireland was kind of Catholic Ireland, and they wouldn't be doing things like that. But I'd encourage people actually go away and look at Father Ted. It's one of the best comedies around.
Ultimately, incredible and very. It skates across deep philosophy, but it points out the irony of being blissfully unaware, doing things for the sake of doing things, or tradition for the sake of tradition without knowing why you're doing it. There's a lot of social problems that have come about as a result of that. I have a big hatred of Christmas. I've got nothing against Jesus or Christianity, but the way in which it plays out in modern day life, it drives me absolutely berserk. I can't stand it. I'd rather stay at home and not get involved.
Yeah, the commercialism is it? They just
the gluttony. I love the fact that every Christmas party you can go to, there's Bob Geldof's Feed the World, and everyone's just leaving food all over the place and boozing themselves up and then vomiting. It's a weird parody, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. Listen, it's been brilliant. I look forward to actually listening to more of your episodes, and I encourage people to start following you. And I hope that somebody actually does try to take you to court for the father thing, because that will get you 1 million listeners through the publicity of it. It will be of benefit, so don't you worry about things like that.
Yes, excellent. If anyone's out there that's a lawyer that likes the challenge, then by all means, drop me a line. Thank you for having me, though. It's been great to speak with you, and I love what you do, and the various methods in which you broadcast together. You're a very professional and able man, and I like that. It's great. So I'm loving what you're doing, and I'm loving the fact that you're going to be growing even more. This is good.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. So we've got this episode on YouTube and BitChute, so be sure to subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Give us a 5-star rating, share with your friends, and you'll find the other podcast, the Awakening Podcast, the Meditation Podcast, the Learn Polish Podcast on roycolin.com. Until next week, take care.